Russian scientists are now throwing all their efforts into inventing a time machine so they can go back to 2014 and talk Putin out of making the mistakes that sent all of Russian history off the rails. By attacking Ukraine in an attempt to bring it back into its sphere of influence, Moscow lost its influence not only in Ukraine, but throughout the entire world. Azerbaijan continues its systematic derussification and denazification of the Caucasus. This is no longer just a minor diplomatic spat between Baku and Moscow. This is a global confrontation.
The relationship between Russia and Azerbaijan is complicated, and this complexity comes from the role played by the geopolitical factor. Right now, both in our region and in the Middle East, the Americans are actively pursuing their policy in connection with Israel. Accordingly, our main objective in the South Caucasus is, first and foremost, to achieve the signing of a peace treaty between Azerbaijan and Armenia. The goal there, in essence, this means pushing Russia out of the South Caucasus.
The president of Azerbaijan, Aliyev, called Russia an occupier and urged Ukrainians to fight against it until the very end. Just a year ago, it would have been impossible to even imagine something like that.
My answer won't be any different from what I said back then, and I think it resonates with the aspirations of the Ukrainian people. Never agree to occupation. That's the main advice. That's what we did.
Moreover, Aliyev gratefully accepted a gift from a Ukrainian journalist who presented him with patches from Ukrainian combat units. In other words, the president of Azerbaijan openly supported the Ukrainian armed forces.
Patches from our defenders, because our army is the only guarantee of security for Ukraine. It's the most valuable thing we have.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Keep it up.
Azerbaijan is not just leaving Moscow's orbit, it's starting to dismantle the entire Russian-centric world. And Moscow itself is to blame for this, because due to its exaggerated pride and imperial chauvinism, it openly despises and spits on its neighbors. 6 months ago, the orcs shot down an Azerbaijani passenger plane over Chechnya. Azerbaijani citizens were killed. There isn't the slightest doubt that it was the unparalleled Russian air defense system that did it, not for Azerbaijan, not for the world, not for logic itself. The testimonies of surviving witnesses and the damage to the plane are facts that can't be argued with. But instead of punishing those responsible and paying compensation for the crime committed, the Kremlin, as usual, started lying shamelessly and endlessly. Just like they did with the downed Malaysian Boeing. In Baku, people were simply outraged by Moscow's brazen and inappropriate behavior. Aliyev, for the first time, began to speak harshly towards the Kremlin.
We can say with complete clarity that the plane was shot down by Russia. This is a fact, and no one can deny it. What was both regrettable and unexpected for us was that official Russian agencies put forward the version about a gas cylinder explosion on board the plane. In other words, this clearly showed that the Russian side wanted to cover up the incident, which, of course, does no one any credit.
Azerbaijan strongly urged Russia to conduct an honest investigation and punish those responsible. But in Moscow, they acted as if nothing had happened. No big deal. Well, they shot down someone else's passenger plane. It's not the first, and it won't be the last. The Russian leadership has no empathy over the deaths of citizens from another country. They've been burying their own Russian citizens by the hundreds of thousands for 4 years now. So why would they care about Azerbaijanis? On the contrary, the complaints from Baku really irritate Russians. How dare a small country, invented by Lenin, demand anything from a great superpower?
How much longer will a 30-year-old independent republic be allowed to attack a 1,000-year-old Rus, even if only diplomatically? Won't there be some kind of tough response?
In Moscow, they genuinely believe that Azerbaijanis have no right to be outraged over the killing of their citizens. They even take offense that Azerbaijanis speak badly about them. It's an absolutely Nazi ideology. Russians consider themselves superhumans who can do anything, while everyone else is second-rate and should put up with any antics from the God-bearing nation.
There's just some nation out there that decided they're above all of us. Like, this nation decided they're superior, and other nations, aren't supposed to joke about them. They're like, don't joke about us, respect US, respect us, but in theory, we're all equal.
Following exactly this Nazi ideology, mass Azerbaijani pogroms began in Russia. People died as a result of the latest one. Putin's cops just beat them to death. And Russian society supported it. No condemnation or criticism, because Russian society is pumped full of hatred and malice. Everyday racism has always thrived in Russia, but now they've even come up with an excuse for it. Azerbaijanis are enemies because they didn't accept the murder of their fellow countrymen. Now, for that, they'll be persecuted and repressed in the swamps.
Never agree to occupation. That's the main advice. That's what we did by our own example. So, he kind of compared Karabakh to what's happening between us. I mean, between Russia and Ukraine. Yeah, well, of course, essentially, he directly said, Aliyev directly called us occupiers, which is quite significant.
Unpleasant, to put it bluntly.
Official Baku stopped any attempts to negotiate with unhinged sadists. In response, Azerbaijan began to harshly detain Russian citizens and propagandists, canceled all cultural events of the orcs, and explained to Moscow in clear diplomatic language who they are and where they should go.
Who are you people? I didn't invite you. Go!
The Azerbaijani authorities have gotten serious about the Kremlin and now want to prove that Putin is a war criminal. Azerbaijan is filing lawsuits in international courts against Russia to hold Moscow accountable for shooting down the passenger plane.
It turns out the Azerbaijani side does not believe Putin punished tragedy.
They are completely and utterly refusing to take any responsibility whatsoever. That's why Azerbaijan has no other alternative left. Yes, it's a long road. This incident and Russia's reaction to it will undoubtedly affect their mutual relations, and it already is.
Some might think that Moscow doesn't care about international courts and won't comply with their rulings. But that's only temporary. When Russia loses the war with Ukraine, it will be forced to pay all its dues and answer for all the verdicts. So Baku is acting with the future in mind.
From Moscow's point of view, Aliyev is supposed to understand and forgive. Well, pretty much the same way Ukraine was supposed to understand and forgive the downing of the Malaysian Boeing, the invasion of Crimea, and so on down the list. First Ukraine, then partly Armenia, now Azerbaijan. They've run out of understanding. This, of course, could lead to some very complicated consequences not only in the bilateral relations between Baku and Moscow, but also, in general, to a kind of restructuring, a reassembly of the post-Soviet space.
Naturally, with this kind of news coming from the Caucasus, the Z-Patriots and propagandists back in the swamps just about burst their fifth points. No more, no less, they're demanding a war be unleashed against Azerbaijan. They even cobbled together a quick casus belli. Turns out, the Azerbaijanis were actively involved in Operation Web to destroy Russian strategic bombers.
Our intelligence has learned that Azerbaijani special services, using their diasporas in Russia, assisted Ukrainian special services in carrying out the sabotage and terrorist Operation Web, which aimed to strike the strategic aviation of the Russian aerospace forces.
The Russians are so fired up that they're even willing to fight on two fronts. Azerbaijan has even surpassed Ukraine in the hate rankings. And the splashback has even reached Armenia.
And all of this is happening against the backdrop of statements from Azerbaijan's leadership, advising the Ukrainian people to never agree to occupation. We didn't agree to it ourselves. They told us, accept the realities, but we changed the realities ourselves. Well, that's not entirely accurate, says Mr. Aliyev. The realities were first changed by Pashinyan, who said that Karabakh isn't ours at all.
The Russian imperialists are ceding not just for no reason, but out of helplessness. Moscow can't influence Baku, neither economically nor diplomatically, and certainly not by force. The official Kremlin, through Peskov, mumbles something vague along the lines of let's all just get along. Meanwhile, the Z-Patriots are calling for blood. Of course, not their own, but that of the common folk, whom they dream of sending to liberate the Caucasus from Azerbaijani banderites.
What will happen in the South Caucasus? The goal is to completely remove Russia and break through the Zangezur corridor. Turkey is taking over this entire region for itself. Iran is facing yet another front. There's going to be a thorn in its side, one sharp enough to make it clear who you can mess with and who you can't. And to realize that there are shared borders and enough muscle for war, if needed, in all sorts of directions.
Azerbaijan picked the perfect moment to put pressure on Russia. There are catastrophic, massive losses at the front, and the US has basically put the Kremlin on the clock. The timer on Trump's ultimatum is ticking like an alarm bell. Moscow can't handle another conflict, neither morally nor physically. So Baku will keep hitting them from all sides, and Putin will stay silent, pretending it's all part of some master plan. And to curry favor with President Aliyev, he even sent his propaganda lackey Markov to Azerbaijan. This so-called political analyst, right in the heat of the confrontation between Russia and Azerbaijan, polished Ilham Aliyev's boots to an indecent shine.
We are all waiting for the speech for President Ilham Aliyev's answers to questions. Because you know that he is a brilliant intellectual, graduated from JIMO, and without a doubt is one of the most experienced leaders in the modern world. A leader who represents a victorious country. There aren't many countries that have won outright, but in this war, they completely restored control and liberated the entire territory of Karabakh.
And that's when the Z-Patriots had their second fit. In an instant, Markov became an enemy of the people and the illegitimate son of Satan. Basically, the alternatively gifted Markov accomplished two tasks for Putin. He cozied up to Azerbaijan and became a lightning rod for the hatred of the fascist rabble. Now, for Russia losing the Caucasus, everyone heaps scorn on a little-known political analyst instead of the great geostrategist. Although that doesn't make things any easier for Russia. It has turned into a backward country, hated by everyone, with no friends or allies. Humiliated on the front lines and impoverished at home. Putin has done more to destroy Russia than anyone else in history.
In reality, we find ourselves in a situation in the South Caucasus that hasn't been this difficult for Russia in 2 centuries. I can say this with full responsibility. In 2 centuries, we've never faced risks like these before.
I would like to remind you that this video is created for entertainment purposes and contains elements of satire and irony. All facts and events are presented in a hyperbolized or exaggerated form to convey a comedic or dramatic effect. Our goal is not to mislead, but to highlight humor. Please take it with a smile.